Scared but Learning, a survival guide with Whitney Lee. Huzzah!
Huzzah! You
Hey,
baited me,
everybody.
and I took the bait. Yeah.
Huzzah! There's dozens of us. Oh, never mind. That is a completely different reference. Hi, Whitney. How are you doing?
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me to be on the show.
Ever since you and I met at KubeCon last year, we talked about it then. I was like, I have to get you on the show. And you're like, well, let me tell you about my shows. And I was like, oh, and then it was Kismet, and we chatted for hours.
It was lovely. It was one of the best, most fruitful KubeCon parties, after parties I've ever been to.
That was my first KubeCon. So I was very surprised with not only, the people that I knew that I didn't realize that I knew that attended KubeCon, but then also the new fun people that, much like yourself, that I met along the way. It was the friends we made along the way. Hearts.
KubeCon's pretty magical. Yeah.
It really is. And you're going to be going to the Tokyo one. So that makes me super jealous, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you should be. That's the correct feeling to have.
I actually just got back from there myself. So
nice.
I was there for a couple of Terraform events. Ooh. And so Tokyo is magical. I had an absolute blast while I was out there. Nice.
Recommendations from you when we're offline.
Oh, I have so many. So I went there for the first time in my life in September of last year, and then all of a sudden they needed me to go back out in March of this year. And so I've been twice now, and I did a number of things, and I have like at least 20 recommendations of things you must do.
All right.
So welcome everybody. Welcome back to the show. This is a little bit out of band, but I'm happy to see that we've got some folks rolling in. So welcome everybody. Today we have Whitney, and you and I had a conversation about this, talking about your journey into technology, and there was a lot of like ships passing, confluences of very coolness, because I was at that point kicking off the newest part of a newest series on vBrownBag on how to get into coding, how to like start learning Python and stuff like that. And you're like, oh, well, I wrote my first line of code at 40. And I was like, yeah, tell me more. And then you told me your amazing story. And then you said, oh, well, I can present on it too, if you would like. And I was like, yes, please.
It's cool. My story's amazing, but if you pause it at several moments during the story, it didn't feel amazing at that moment, right? It's only amazing because we know I'm here, I'm like doing well, it has a happy ending. So
right.
I didn't know I was living an amazing story at the time. And I think that's important to point out for people who are feeling low right now. Maybe this is going to be something you talk about and like, oh, I learned this important lesson from this moment that I was able to carry through and use it to help me succeed later.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where people that are outside of the industry, or even people that are in the industry but are in a different technology stack, there is a real, not fear, not reluctance, but like an uncertainty. People don't know what they don't know about how to do the things. And so there's an inertia that happens because of that.
Yeah.
And I love having stories like this. I love talking to people like you that have done this. And even myself, like I was an ops guy way back in the day, and I'm still just like a little baby developer. So your story is amazing. And I'm very appreciative that you're on the show.
Well, I'm kind of scared all the time. I've become comfortable being uncomfortable, and I'm scared right now, honestly, because talking, I usually talk about tech. And so talking about my personal life makes me feel vulnerable and scared. So even right at this moment, I feel uncomfortable and a fear kind of feeling.
Hence scared but learning.
Here we are. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove my thing from the stage and add yours to the stage, because you were so nice to actually grab the pic that I shot. Oh, and look who we've got. Oh, no, he ran away. Now he's back.
Aha!
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey there, Damien. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, we can hear you
Okay,
fine.
awesome. I'm doing very
Right.
well. I did learn today that my good friend Chris Williams does not understand time zones, but it's okay. It was only my meeting with my financial planner, so that's okay.
You know what? You're welcome for me getting you out of that, because the last thing you want to do is look at your finances.
Yes, yes. Yeah, she's like, "What are you most concerned about retirement?" Reaching it?
For a number of reasons.
Oh, yes.
A number
Yes.
of fronts. Yeah.
So many. Yeah.
Is it getting hot in here? It's getting hot in here, isn't it?
Yeah. I was like buying a new home, buying a car, traveling. I was like, there's no place for existential dread on this software.
Yeah. What is happening? So hey to we've got some AWS heroes in the audience. Welcome to Linda. Welcome to Satya. Glad that you're all here. So let's get into brass tacks here,
Let's do
Miss
this.
Whitney Lee. What's tell us all about you.
Okay. Well, first, so I usually do technical presentations, and usually when I do, my whole move, I don't know how you all do it when you present, but my way of doing it is I don't say anything about myself at the beginning. I just like launch right into technical stuff, and like my idea is like I can knock their socks off with my technical knowledge, and then at the end of the presentation, when I'm casually like, "Oh, this is who I am and how you look me up," then that's way more motivating than if at the beginning I'm like, here's everything about me, but you don't know me yet, so you don't care yet. So yeah, so this is actually very vulnerable to be like right at the beginning. Hello, I'm Whitney.
Like the Jedi mind trick.
This is who I am. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, another friend of the show is a juggler, and she juggles as a way of breaking the ice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Look, I'm a human who does other things. Yeah.
Yes.
Another thing that makes me uncomfortable about this presentation is that it's necessary for me to brag a lot up top. As I was saying to Chris before you got on, like the story only is a good story if it has a happy ending, and a happy ending looks like a lot of technical success. So I'm going to talk about some successes right off the bat here, which is I'm an international keynote speaker. I've given not one, but 2 earned KubeCon keynotes, which is a big deal. So one of them was in Shanghai, China, and the other one was in Detroit in 2022. So to get a sense of where I am, like the actual me in that photo, that's me right there.
Little teeny tiny you.
I think that room held 8,000 people or something along those lines.
That's amazing.
Something else wild about this moment in time, and this is the fall of 2022. I gave my very first conference talk ever to anybody, to a group of like 30 people in April that same year. So this is 6 months after my very first talk.
Wow.
So we're framing this all through fear. I was absolutely horrified to be giving that talk, and honestly leading up to giving that talk, because I wasn't sure. Once I got on that big stage, I wasn't sure that I wasn't going to just forget everything. I didn't have any experience to tell me, no, it'll be okay. It's been okay 100 times. That's not. I was just like, anyway. So I was
This
scared.
could all go completely awry.
But it actually went really well. And then because it went well, my employer at the time, VMware Tanzu, asked me to do a keynote for their VMware Explore conference they do every year. So that's cool. And then I also give all kinds of community keynotes and community breakout talks all over the world. So just next week, I'll be in Costa Rica doing a keynote for KCD Costa Rica. I'll go to Japan to talk at KubeCon Japan later this year. And about a year ago, I keynoted a conference here in Austin, DevOps Days Austin. And that's where I actually wrote this talk, like all the slides. And they're the first ones to ask me to give like a real talk about my story. And I hand drew all of these slides about my talk.
That is awesome. So are you currently in Austin?
Yes, I live in Austin, Texas. You're in Austin too, yeah?
So do I, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, right
there's
on.
a very large contingency of vBrownBag presenters, alumni, and co-hosts that are generated from Texas. I don't know what it is.
It's
Something
because it's such a big state.
Oh, just population. Just
Yes.
by virtue of the number of humans, they're naturally just going to get some from Texas.
Yes.
it's also so hot. We don't have anything to do but stay inside and learn about technical stuff.
Right. Yes. I actually need to get connected with probably like the local OpenStack or DevOps or Kube folks. So yeah,
I'm
just a little reminder.
Yeah, I'm speaking at the Kubernetes Austin meetup on Thursday night about Kubernetes security. So come join.
You mean tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night, yeah.
Is it virtual or in person?
It's in person, yeah.
Okay.
Real bodies.
Well, there you go, Damien.
Yeah, come
Actual human beings.
a whole room full of them.
Okay.
So
Yes, I will have to check my calendar. Sorry. Back to you, Whitney.
It's nice
All
to
I've
get
done
an
is derail.
opportunity to plug it.
That's all I've done.
That's kind of his job, really.
Yeah. Just,
Join late, derail.
yes, yeah.
I want a
Rinse and repeat.
t-shirt
Check
that
box.
says join late, derail.
That'd be awesome.
Anyway, so I moved to Austin from Ohio in 2003, and I had a fresh college degree, and my degree was a bachelor in fine arts. So my degrees specifically in photography, which we'll talk about in a second. But first, I had 15 minutes of fame as a fine artist, and then I started a career as a wedding photographer. So I did this for over a decade. I worked for other photographers for a while, and then I decided to start my own business, and then I had other photographers work for me. I did the math once, and I think I photographed over 500 weddings, which is just terrible. I hated it. By the end of it, I really did. I hated it deeply.
Wow.
I didn't feel like I was growing. It's a very circular kind of like, they're all different, but they're also all the same kind of thing. And actually, my very first conference talk was a talk called Codezillas, because I saw a lot of similarities of selling and installing software. Then that cycle to the wedding photography cycle, where you educate as part of selling. You need to figure out who the stakeholders are. You need to root out any assumptions they're making. A lot of the same. You just have to be an excellent communicator. But the point is, right now, I deeply hated it. It was the absolute worst. Hate it. Let me tell you how I felt. So in 2014, my brother, he's a professional musician, and his band experienced some success, but it's really just his music, and he played all the instruments or hired people to play what he couldn't play. So he needed to put a live band together to tour, and he asked me to be in the band. So in 2014, I quit my life and joined a band. I quit everything. I dissolved the wedding photography business. I used up all my savings, giving couples their wedding deposit money back. I'd been with my partner at the time for 8 years. They were not supportive, and so I broke up with them. I put all my stuff into storage, and I lived out of a van for a year in 2014. This is
one of those by a river.
Yeah, at points it definitely was. Yeah.
So you don't do half measures, right? It's like all or nothing.
You seem very like wallflowery. You stick a toe in.
Yeah.
You're very unsure.
I like it, actually.
Have been a very shy person. Only in more recent years have I become as outgoing as I am. And ironically, part of what caused it was when I quit drinking. I actually got really outgoing, which is the opposite of what I thought I needed alcohol to be outgoing, but it's really the other way around.
No, the alcohol is just there to make you annoying.
Repeat yourself and louder.
Yes.
And Damien would definitely know.
Yes. No. To snore so loudly, your wife wants to kill you.
So when this year of touring ended, I did go back to Austin, but I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I did know what I did not want to do with my life, and that was wedding photography.
Wedding photography, right.
So I drove for Lyft for a while. I also worked as a server in restaurants. I started working at a place called Uchiko, which is like an upscale Japanese restaurant.
A very nice
And
place.
it is too nice for me, honestly. I belong at the hippie granola vegan cafe. That's way more my speed. And so I worked there. So all in all, I worked at restaurants for like 4 years. I was saying before you joined, Damien, that there are moments in the story, if you pause right here, like it's not what makes my story a good story is that there's a happy ending. And so if you would have been like, and then she was 39 years old working at a vegan cafe, the end. It's not the worst story. I actually really loved this job and I was way happier
No.
here than I was as a wedding photographer. But I
Yeah.
probably also wouldn't be presenting about my life story either.
True.
Yeah. So I was working at Bolden Creek Cafe, the vegan cafe, and my son was graduating college, or actually he was in college, and he was majoring in software engineering. And he was like, he knew I was a little lost. So he was like, Mom, I think you would really like this. You should try coding. And so I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And so in January 2019, I wrote my first line of code. And that started a whole conveyor belt of getting me into the tech industry. So the first line of code was doing just like an getting ready. I forget what they called it. Anyway, it was toward going to a boot camp. So with this first line of code, I enrolled in a prep course and I did hundreds of hours of work doing this so I could just pass their entrance exam. And then once I passed the entrance exam, then I owed them 120 more hours of self-study pre-course kind of work before I actually started boot camp. And then in July of 2019, I actually started the boot camp, which was 11-hour days, 6 days a week for 3 months. So yeah, it's intense.
Wow.
And so yeah,
a couple of clarifying questions.
yeah.
Before you wrote your first line of code, what kind of like exposure to computers had you had leading up to that? Was it
like being a child when the internet was new, or being a young adult when the internet was new? Like my email would break and I kind of figured out email servers to have to know how to fix it. And then I remember once getting into the dev tools and figuring out how to write a script to like Tumblr posts, actually, to auto so like I touched it a couple of times for random reasons, but I never really knew anything.
So what kinds of things did you have to learn during the period before starting the boot camp? You said you did a lot of studying in between there and when you got to it. So what were the things you picked up in that slice of time? So
I learned, so it was a JavaScript full stack web development boot camp. So at first it was JavaScript and like Katacoda style, solve increasingly harder little problems. And then before I passed, there was something a little more difficult. They give us more difficult, like story-based scenarios that you have a reason to write something.
And that was just to get into Hack Reactor.
That was just to pass the entrance exam, yeah. And then once I was in, there was pre-course that involved building a rudimentary Twitter lookalike website. I don't remember what else. I think there are lots of functions that are built into JavaScript, and we had to write them out. We had to like figure out how to write them. I don't remember. It's been a long time now, 6 years. And I don't do yeah.
So, but you had, I mean, obviously you had a laptop, you could shell into it. I mean, there was a baseline of information that you had prior to like learning how to code that, I mean, I'm just, for the audience, I'm trying to like set
I knew nothing. So even shelling into a machine, if I was shelling into something, I was following an instruction and doing it blindly without knowing what or why I was doing it. There was a lot of that at first, just doing what the instruction said without understanding.
This is awesome. So I mean, this was a huge shift for you. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
This is very inspiring.
Thanks. And so the boot camp was July through October. I graduated in October. I remember containerizing an application and deploying it onto a web server. And in retrospect, I know what I did, but in the moment, Nginx, I didn't know. And so I graduated in October of 2019. And then right after I graduated, I applied to be a cloud developer at IBM. So I learned about Kubernetes for the very first time in preparation for that job interview. And specifically, I remember learning the basics of Kubernetes from the IBM Cloud YouTube channel, from these cool Lightboard videos on IBM Cloud. And so I studied these videos. I made flashcards. In 2019, they didn't really have like Minikube and Kind clusters and that sort of thing. So I didn't have to actually code about Kubernetes. I just had to talk about what it did. I containerized an application as part of the process, I remember. But I interviewed and they hired me in November of 2019. So less than a year after that first line of code, I was employed as a cloud developer at IBM, which is, woo! So specifically, my job was pre-sales. So I would travel. Well, the idea was that I would travel to client sites to build out proof of concepts for people, for potential customers using IBM products, and then move on to the next one. So I wasn't even really meant to get into the client's environment, just show them what IBM can do for their particular thing. But the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours I spent learning to code throughout the year, that was all full stack web development. And I just got a job as a cloud developer.
Right.
And, yeah. And I am so glad I did not know what I did not know. Because if I would have understood the enormity or the disparity between those two, well, the disparity between the two and then the enormity of like everything possible or all the concerns around cloud development, I would have been horrified. I mean, I already was horrified, but I would have been even more so. But I was so determined to do well. But when I started,
What was it about full stack that attracted you versus like, I want to learn Python or literally anything else?
This program had a good reputation in its way. And there was back then there was some sort of nonprofit that kept track of all the boot camps and how many grads they were able to place into jobs, got jobs after graduating. And this one had a good results and positive reviews. So it had nothing to do with what I was learning. It was only about getting a job and learning something. I didn't know.
Here
enough.
I was thinking your flair for the artistic attracted you to web design.
You're giving me too much credit. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I assumed you were a badass.
You're way off base there.
Well,
good try. A lot of people make that mistake.
To be clear, she is a badass.
Yes, yeah. So have you seen that meme that's like, is Kubernetes easy? And the guy has like a sheathed sword that says yes on the sword, and then he opens the sheath and it says, "Yesterday it made me cry."
No, but that's wonderful.
Okay. I work with Kubernetes literally every single day at my job, and so does the rest of my company. And so, yeah, that's a popular
and he has
meme.
that sword. He actually has that sword now.
I actually should like 3D print that sword or something. That'd be hilarious.
That'd be amazing. Oh my God.
So I had this adult job as a cloud developer, and I knew nothing. And I felt so much imposter syndrome. So I felt like any second someone was going to walk by and realize, like, what is she doing here? She doesn't know anything. She doesn't know enough to be here. We've made a terrible mistake. What have we done? And to put this in perspective, there was so much I didn't understand. It took me months of being at IBM before I really grasped that when people say a box, they mean the same thing as when they say a node, which is the same thing as a machine, which is the same thing as a host, which is the same thing as a server, that every time they just mean computer. Like I understand they're slightly different in different contexts, but my brain wasn't wrapping around like, oh, that's just a computer over here. Oh, it's just a computer over there. Like, oh, it's a computer. It's just a computer.
That's a computer inside a computer.
Yeah. So I was also just a very different looking and feeling human than the other humans around me. I was hired alongside a bunch of other boot camp grads and recent college grads. So I was older than many of my colleagues by like 20 years. They were mostly my son's age. So I was at least used to that demographic. And there were also very, very few women, like less than 20% of women in this cohort at IBM. But I was so determined to do well at this job. So one thing I did to do really well was pay attention to every single meeting, even this one where nobody's camera is on. It's so boring. There's so much jargon, but I was there studying, like I'm trying to wrap my head around what was happening, taking notes, like even though no one would ever see my notes, just trying to reframe and understand what I was seeing. It was boring. And then we'll talk about this later. But I also love Anki as a way to learn a lot of information in a little bit of time. So I made Anki flashcards of every bit of jargon I came across, every acronym I didn't know, which was all of them. And I would study my Anki cards each morning before work. So when I did learn something, it would actually stick. And fun fact, I still use Anki today. And we'll talk about it later.
Cool.
I also got my first mentor, Maurice. He was a career mentor. So in my life, this is not only my first ever tech job, but it's also my first ever corporate job. So the corporate culture felt very strange to me. So I would ask Maurice stuff like, why is everyone saying Q2 at me? What's Q2? This Q2 thing I'm hearing all about. And it still seems a little arbitrary to me that the corporate world thinks in quarters and takes these deadlines so seriously. I understand it's something to do with stonks, but
it's stonk related shenanigans.
Oh my gosh. Whitney, you are so freaking cute. Something to do with stonks.
I was going to say refreshing because it is just arbitrary nonsense.
Well, yeah, and I do not mean cute in any negative connotation or anything, but like it's adorable, right? It's like I would be like, oh my gosh, right? Like you don't know, that's so cool.
And not quite as jaded, or I am. I don't know, like the corporate stuff. I really love a manager that's a quote unquote shit umbrella. Like I very much limit my sphere of concern to my sphere of influence. And I don't care to think beyond it because I don't have control. And that stuff's just weird.
Yeah.
I love that outlook.
Thanks. So Maurice, my mentor, was helping me grow. He is helping me figure out my next best step career-wise. He is helping connect me to different people in the organization. And much later down the line, when it was time to get a promotion, he was the one whispering in my ear to, hey, it's time to get a promotion. And time went on. I made progress. I was scared all the time. I thought I was going to get laid off every minute, but I didn't. And then when I'd been there just a few months, I saw this Slack post in the IBM specific Slack channel. I said IBM specific. It's Austin, Texas specific IBM Slack channel. And this post intrigued me, and it was a call for SMEs. And they wanted SMEs to make lightboard videos like the one I saw when I was studying. It was so it was this call for SMEs. And you know what I did? The first thing I did when I saw this post.
You raised your hand.
You asked, what's an SME?
I had to Google what is an SME. For the uninitiated, SME stands for subject matter experts. Yeah. And at this point, I mean, I had been there for 3 months when I saw this post. So there's no world where I'm an SME in Kubernetes or anything. But
and you did it anyway.
Yeah, I did.
Yes.
Well, here's what it was. It was a Google form. So I clicked the link to get more information. It's a Google form. It doesn't give me more information. And then it's like, well, maybe someone else writes the script and I just have to perform it. I have a performance experience. I was in a band. I was always in bands, So, I mean, I want more information. The only way to get it is to fill out this form. So I filled out the form, sent it into the world, and then the pandemic happened. And I totally forgot that I ever did it. And then but later when the office was opened back up to essential personnel, I got this email, and the IBM Cloud YouTube team reached out to me with great enthusiasm, and we got on a video call. So I remember getting on this video call with them, and they kept using the word rock star. Like, I was like, I don't think you understand. I've been here like 4 months, 5 months. I'm so new. Like, I know almost nothing. There's no way you want to make me a public face of IBM. Like, are you kidding me?
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
but they did. During that call, I did learn that the videos are 100% me. They're my content. I do have to learn and write everything. And
Mhm.
then they also appease me, like calm me down by saying, or talked me into it by saying, here's what we'll do. You pick a topic, you come into the studio, you just record. It's just us and you there. Just record it. If it's bad, we won't post it. And if it's good, we'll post it. So there's really nothing to lose. You can always try.
Mhm, mhm.
And if it sucks, no one ever has to know. So I said, okay, you convinced me. I'll try it. Let's go. Let's go. So here's one thing about this, though, which is kind of shocking. And that is, this is a marketing team. There
Mm.
was no one there to double check my content. So
No.
Mhm.
I didn't trust myself to say the right thing. I didn't even totally trust myself to pronounce the words correctly. So much jargon. And so I got another mentor. I got a technical mentor this time, Rick. So he's someone who I noticed from afar. He led a big meeting I was in, and I never talked to him directly. But I noticed that he seemed really, really kind. And so he seemed like a guy that I wouldn't mind making an ass of myself in front of, that he wouldn't be mean to me or judge me, that he would be there to help. And so I asked him to be my mentor, and he said yes. And now we're good friends. So after I wrote the content, before I went to the studio, I would perform the content to Rick, and he would give little pieces of feedback about. But mostly it was minor. I never restructured anything, but just like the right way to say something. I do think that learning tech jargon is like learning a whole other language. It's
Oh,
that.
it totally is.
It's
Yeah.
mine. Yeah. So here is that day when I recorded my very first IBM Cloud YouTube channel. So in the vein of fear, it was scary as hell. So scary. And the first takes of the first video, you could see like my handwriting is really shaky because like I was so nervous. I was physically shaking.
Mm.
So then
What about
about
it made you nervous? Was it just you feeling uncertain about your knowledge? Because you performed in front of crowds. So
feeling I performed in front of crowds with a band with a bunch of other people. So A, it wasn't all the
Mhm.
attention on me. Um,
gotcha.
B, I really didn't know this. I mean, I wasn't used to talking so much about this stuff. Even my IBM training at that point had been a lot of like self-guided learning journeys or
Mhm.
shadowing people. I hadn't done much of the talking and like being in front of people,
Gotcha.
like
Gotcha.
connecting the concepts and teaching and convincing. Um, and also, I think I like to tell myself that I get nervous because I care. I still get a little nervous before talking. And it's like, oh, it just means I care. So anyway, 9 months after I watched the IBM Cloud video to learn what Kubernetes is, 9 months later, my own video came out, and that is what is etcd. And so right now, if you Google what is etcd, I haven't checked lately, but this is the video that comes up. This is still the number one video. It has 64,000 views. You can see little baby Whitney, who barely understands what she is saying when she says the word distributed. I don't think I fully understood what I meant when
Yep.
I was saying that.
It's still the top video. There
Is
you
it still
are.
number
Yeah.
one?
Yeah.
Yep.
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 So at first I could not watch it, and I didn't want to look at the comments. I didn't look at the comments for now I'm comfortable looking at YouTube comments because I don't care. But at the
Oh
moment,
boy, you're brave. You're very brave.
if someone's mean, it's really a problem with them more than it is a problem with me. That's what I think.
I know. I also know that so another content creator that I follow is Track It Pacer.
Hmm.
And she's a network engineer for I think for Origin. The Bezos company. Anyways, she gets so much hate, right?
Yeah.
For being who she is. Right.
Yeah.
Like
Uh-huh.
just literally existing. Right. And so
Yeah.
that's why I'm saying Don't read the comments. Yes, it is their problem, right? It is the
Yeah.
commenters' problem. They are the broken ones. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
still, that's
I
ugly.
yeah.
She's actually coming on the show too. We're getting to schedule her as well.
Don't tease
I'll-
me like this, Chris Williams.
as a woman too, I'll get like cosmetic, like this lady laughs too much, or
Yeah, it's so weird.
yeah,
It's so
comments
yeah.
about my appearance for better or worse, which is which just doesn't
Nope.
happen with a male.
Nobody ever comes on and complains about my hair or lack thereof. It's so strange.
Yes, it is weird that we're held to different standards, which I was actually thinking, like, was it tough for you to ask a man to be your mentor? Like, did that?
No, I sometimes do reach out to underrepresented on purpose, but in this case, Rick I could just tell from across the room he was like a
He was a
person
cool
who was
dude.
like me. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Getting to know Chris. Yeah.
Yeah.
I there was a point in my early career where I had a manager try to assign a mentor to me, and I was like, no, thank you, not that guy.
Yeah.
I understand.
I'll pick my own. Thanks.
Yeah, I got
Yeah.
which brings up a good point, which saying no is a good thing sometimes. So
Yeah.
anyway, this was scary, and reading the comments and stuff was scary. Having it be so public was scary, but I got a lot of positive feedback too, especially from personal people like my coworkers and stuff. So I did make more throughout my next year at IBM. So I ended up making 7 altogether, also these 6. And I think if we added it up, there's probably between 1 and 2 million views on all of these videos, which
Nice.
is more about the IBM Cloud channel doing a good job than me necessarily. But it is pretty fun to rewatch and see like how I framed things. Honestly, what it taught me was like a beginner teaching a beginner does a really good job at teaching a beginner, as opposed to a super advanced person trying to pull it down to beginner level.
Yeah.
So it made me feel like my voice is legitimate, even though I'm not the most knowledgeable person in the room.
Yeah. I hear you. I'm actually experiencing that in real time. I create content at my job that's technical.
Yeah.
And we just hired a guy who was trying to use our software, and and my doc said to do this as root, and he's like, I didn't even know about sudo. What is sudo? And I'm like, this is really great actually, because like I've encouraged some of my non-technical marketing people, like, go watch my videos. So maybe you can learn a little bit more about the product, and also tell me what I'm missing, because you're coming from a place that you haven't been doing this your entire life, right? Like, so,
yeah.
Yes, that is incredibly valuable, and it is really, really hard to capture that perspective and to stick with it. So
it's really
amazing job.
Something when somebody is brave enough to learn in public, you capture something that when you become intermediate or advanced at said topic, you just gloss over it at that point. Like as an advanced user, of course you would import this package or you would do it this way. And as if you're learning as a beginner in public, then you're like, okay, well, this is what an import statement means. And this is how it goes out and grabs a package, because I didn't know this yesterday. So now here we go. And you can walk through all of that with your audience, and you can establish a very strong connection by doing it that way.
Absolutely. But then there's some of it too, as your own learning moves on, you don't want to repeat some of that basic knowledge over and over again.
Right.
So it's a hard, it's just something you kind of navigate with every resource you make. Like, what assumptions do I want to make? Who is this for?
Right.
What do I want to spell out, or at least reference? If you don't know this, go back here, and then you can get the context you need to understand this resource better.
Yeah.
So I made these. Oh, and so this became like my go-to stretch project when I wasn't I wasn't a part of a sales cycle. And at IBM, I got promoted into customer success, which I didn't really like. I wanted to be more technical than that job was. And so I heard that there's this job in the world called developer advocate, where what you do is make content. That's your whole job. And I was like, yes, please. That's what I want with my life. And so I found at VMware that there's this developer advocate position open. But the thing is, it called for deep Kubernetes expertise.
So you said, well, here's my video series. As you can see.
Yeah. Where you can clearly see I'm a beginner, by the way, in the way but just like applying to do the videos, like there's no harm in having this conversation. Like I'm going to apply anyway. Because I want to talk to people. I want to understand what the developer advocates like. Like I want to understand what does deep Kubernetes like expertise even mean, and how can I be on a path to get there? So I applied to this job, and I definitely did not get this job because I was totally underqualified. But they did make a whole new position on the team just for me. And they hired me to be on the advocacy team, not as the Kubernetes expert, but as someone who makes lightboard resources for beginners.
Awesome.
Amazing.
So they bought me this lightboard studio. You can see it behind me here too. And they hired me to be a developer advocate at VMware Tanzu. And that was my job for over 3 years, and I loved it. Well, we should say that I grew to love it. At first, I was horrified and starting and like really battling imposter syndrome in a big way. Because it's one thing to like casually resource the next tech you're kind of curious about over 6 weeks and like make a little 10-minute video about it. And it's another thing where it's like your whole job to crank out content and feeling like I didn't even necessarily have the jargon right, or like not be able to like super speak about it comfortably where without it being a script. So I actually, during my first months of VMware, I went to a counselor specifically for imposter syndrome because I got so up in my head about making stuff. So I, when I tell my magical story, I want to be sure to talk about the down moments or the moments I doubted myself and the moments I had to reach out for help to other people, because that's important. I didn't just like blast my way to the top without these kinds of valleys too.
Yeah. Funnily enough, so I worked at VMware for 5 years until the acquisition. That was a company with real heart and like real genuine culture, as opposed to IBM, which is less so.
What you're putting down.
And I do feel like VMware might have like over rotated a little bit about that. Like I remember there was like, regularly occurring employee resource meetings about imposter syndrome and dealing with being stuck at home for COVID and just like all this stuff, right? Like, and I guess I was just thinking like, that's a great place to go through imposter syndrome because VMware genuinely did care about its people.
Yeah.
Before the acquisition. So yeah.
Yeah. It's
on here?
when you're new in tech and you look around and everyone knows so much more than you just assume everyone knows everything. And then the more you know, the more you realize how much people around you also don't know. If that makes And I was definitely in a zone where I felt like everyone knew everything and I knew nothing. But now I feel like nobody knows anything, which is a more comfortable place.
Yeah. I think it's kind of that like trough of learning, right? Like, now you're like down in the kind of the expert level where you're like, wow, everyone's making it up.
Absolutely. That's where I live right now. That's where I live in So once I got over imposter syndrome, I made a lightboard show at VMware called Enlightening. And so basically I had this problem where I was really new and I needed to create a lot of content. And the way I solved this problem was with this show where I'd invite an expert to come on to my show virtually and teach me about whatever technology or concept that they're an expert at. So I would go into these episodes knowing absolutely nothing by design. I know nothing about that technology you're trying to teach me. And it's up to you, the viewer, with your words only to describe to me what problem is this tech solving, what like what's a succinct definition of what it is? How does it work? What are some use cases? Like however you want to fill the board. But really, I want to know what problem is it solving and what's a succinct use case at least.
Yeah.
And then you can go from wherever you want. And then it was a live streaming show. So this one was about a VMware technology called Cartographer. This one's about Sigstore. There's actually a lot. Sigstore is really easy to use to sign and verify images, but it's actually quite complex under the hood. But I would ask a ton of questions along the way. Like I'm actually writing out my knowledge, so there's nowhere for me to hide. I can't say and pretend I understand something that I don't understand. I'm reframing it and then putting it on the board. And this one is about cloud native build packs, another one that's easy to use and hard to understand. So I did about 100 of these episodes, quite a lot over the years. And now I host a lot of other shows too. So I don't do this one right now. I also got laid off, which we'll talk about shortly. But I stopped doing it when I left VMware, and I haven't decided whether I'll pick it back up.
Well, the good news is I was actually a little bit concerned that maybe they had gotten rid of those videos since Broadcom. They're still there. I'm so excited, actually. I'm gonna watch these because I need to learn. I need to learn some of this stuff in my day job. And
good.
like an introduction to FluentBit. Hell yes. What is FluentBit? We use it. I don't know what it does.
It's a logging solution. It's deployed as a daemon set. When the winds of change were in the air, I started streaming to both my personal YouTube channel and VMware Tanzu. So if you go to this QR code, you'll get to a playlist that's on my personal page. It's not going to go away. It doesn't have all 100 episodes, but it has I think 70 something, or I don't know.
Well, I would rather give you the views because Broadcom doesn't need the monetization.
They really don't appreciate open source. So through doing these shows and some other things, I became a CNCF ambassador. And as such, I got to be one of the hosts on Cloud Native Live. So for that one, CNCF member companies get to come on and teach about any open source technology they want. And again, I go into these completely empty-headed and let them teach what they're going to teach. And I moderate chat and ask a bunch of questions. And this one's about Tetragon. And then
I just put your playlist into the chat for anybody that's interested.
Oh, thank you. I was over here furiously Googling.
And then Broadcom bought VMware, and my time there was over. I got laid off, as did everyone who was heavily involved in open source and especially Kubernetes. So I had a lot of feelings, of course, about being laid off at the time. And again, I was scared so many times in so many ways. But I was really sad that job ended because I loved it so much. And I was like, will I get another job that I like even half this much? Also, the way I got the job was because this one manager, Tasha, hello, Tasha, if you're watching, this one manager saw a light in me and took a risk on me. And now, is someone else going to do that in the future? Have I done enough to earn my place here after one person gave me a break? I had a lot of nervous and scared feelings. But in the end, getting laid off was freaking amazing for two reasons. The first reason is that I got to spend a month hiking in Patagonia.
Nice.
Which is, if you would have told myself who was working at the hippie vegan cafe that pretty soon I'd live a life where I could get paid a month of severance and spend that month hiking, I'd be all about that. Yes, please.
Yep.
But the second bigger reason I'm really happy I got laid off is because now I have a job as a developer advocate or a technical advocate at Datadog. And it's a really, really great place. I've only been there a couple months, but the people are so nice and they know a lot, which is a hard combo to find. Of course, we found it here in this room too. I'm still able to speak and give keynotes. I'm still able to make shows. And so I'm happy. And I contribute to Datadog stuff. I'll be doing some facilitating workshops at the upcoming Dash conference. But now I have a podcast that I host with Michael Cote. It's just a podcast. It's not unlike this. We interview people and ask lots of questions and have fun together. It's pretty straightforward. Without. And then the most popular show I host is one called You Choose. So I co-host this alongside my friend Victor Farsick on his DevOps Toolkit YouTube channel. So in this one, each episode is a different system design choice. And so for each system design choice, we gather all the relevant CNCF tech that can do that thing. We invite a guest on from each technology. So maybe there'll be 2 to 5 guests per episode. And then the guests each get only 5 minutes to present about their technology, only 5 minutes, because we just want a brief overview of what it does. We don't want a long story about all your latest features and the nitty gritty. Just give us an overview. Just tell us the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
So each one gets 5-minute presentation. We have a gong that we use. We're very serious. And then we have a Q&A part at the end where live people can ask questions. And I always have a lot of questions too. And then at the end, we vote. We put it to the vote. We ask the community to vote on which technology they want us to build into our ongoing demo. And then at the beginning of the next episode, we'll implement the technology that got chosen into an ongoing demo. So you get to see that one demoed. It's a lot of fun. We have a really good time, actually. This service mesh one is very spicy. Get all the maintainers from different competing projects together to have a conversation. It's awesome.
Wow.
And I've just posted the link for the DevOps Toolkit for those who are interested in that as well.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
That's Victor.
And
yeah.
If you are on our YouTube channel, I actually added Whitney's YouTube channel as a friend of the vBrownBag on our home tab.
Thanks.
Place. So yes, you can get to hers through ours. Or just go to Wiggity Whitney directly.
I didn't even know you could do that. That's awesome.
Yeah, actually, yes. I just learned that the other day too. So I did it.
Look at you flexing that knowledge. I'm unaware.
Yeah. Well,
we're all just learning in public. Look at that. Look at us.
Yeah. I learned about moderating a YouTube channel from the vBrownBag, and now I do it at work. So hey,
it's actually how I got my job at HashiCorp was because of my vBrownBag work. They were like, "Hey, do that for us." And I was like, "Oh, that's a real job for actual monies."
Yeah, you get it.
They said, "Yes, please."
That was effectively how I was hired as well. It was like, oh, the vBrownBag. Yep.
Amazing. Yeah, we're living the life, friends. I'm quickly going to flex about the different system design choices we've gone over in You Choose. We've done container building, container image registry, application configuration, certificate management. Crossplane, we featured that one for an episode about how to provision and manage a database from within Kubernetes. And then Schema Hero to declaratively define a schema for that database. We have, which one just appeared? Oh, DevSpace for developing on Kubernetes. Argo CD was for GitOps, the winner of our GitOps episode. Contour for Ingress. KubeArmor for runtime security. External secrets operator for secrets management. Cilium for MTLS and network policy. Kubescape for Kubernetes scanning, Notary Project for image signing, Spiffy Inspire for workload identity. We have Keycloak for authentication, OpenFGA for authorization, Headlamp for Kubernetes visualization, Prometheus and Thanos for Kubernetes metrics and scaling, Jaeger and OpenTelemetry for tracing, Istio for service mesh, and OpenCost is back there too. For yeah.
Did you have all of that memorized? Or...
Oh yeah, yeah. That's
wow.
Yeah. I needed a minute to flex my technology knowledge. Usually, when I do this talk, I do it as the first half of a tech talk because as a woman in tech, I feel like I get asked to do soft skills talk a lot, which is great. I have good soft skills things to say, but I also just want to break some stereotypes when I get the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do that. That's amazing. Keep doing that if you'd like.
Thanks. Well, if you want another talk later about Kubernetes security, we can do that. So I've been making this show for like 2.5 years. It's 40 episodes. And it's wild in this one to see the very beginning episodes, like the version of me from even 2.5 years ago who was so afraid. And the version of me from current episodes where I'm like totally just bossing around a bunch of project maintainers. But I think, again, the trick is to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And then one more, I just started a new show last week. This is called Thunder. It's related to the Enlightening series I did. So those Enlightening episodes are awesome, but they're long. It takes a long time for someone to explain a technology to me from scratch, usually an hour and a half or 2 hours long.
Right.
So these are recap episodes. So when I recorded the Enlightenings after the live stream ended, I kept the guest on the line, and then we did a 15, 20-minute recording of them just going over the basics of the technology. And so now I've hired a video editor. So I'm watch out, world. And so
man, I'm so jealous.
well, I mean, you can hire them too. It's you just give them some money and they do what you ask.
Yeah.
Nothing to be jealous about.
Right now, it's just Chris and I'm rocking DaVinci. He's on Premiere Pro, and we do what we can. So yeah.
We just how did you do that? Oh, well, here, let me show you.
Yes,
Actually,
yes.
We're in the process of using the Google Studio AI to explain the applications to us, like in real time as we're screen sharing.
That's fun.
It's actually been very effective. It's been super fun too.
Cool. Yeah, I love learning out loud.
Mm.
So yeah, this has been really fun and useful. This Thunder series. This is the only episode that's out so far. There'll be a second one next week. And that's the end. So we bring us to present day right now. And I have a few takeaways about what helped me get far quickly in my career. And I'll be interested in what y'all think. My first one is be genuine. I'm always 100% me. I don't pretend to understand something that I don't know. I always will say, wait, stop. What is that? What's that acronym? It hasn't been like in one of my last Enlightening episodes, I asked what SDLC stands for, which software delivery lifecycle, which is like, oh yeah, of course. But I don't know. When I find those little gaps in knowledge, I actually think they're pretty exciting as opposed to feeling embarrassed. But it has been a paradigm shift from when I started. But if you are new, especially, don't be afraid of seeming new. You are new. Come on. Yeah. The second one is to be vulnerable. So when you're scared, that just means you're about to grow. I like that way of framing fear. Another thing about fear is fear and excitement actually are the exact same chemicals in your body. And so sometimes if you're feeling fear, you can reframe it as, oh, this is exciting, as an exciting moment. But in my opinion, the price of accelerated progress is frequent discomfort. That's what you pay. Be curious. Don't be judgmental. People want to have hot takes and opinions and like this technology is better than that and only a fool uses blah, blah, blah. That's I don't go for that nonsense. Just be like, somebody uses that. Why? I would like to understand that person and why they do what they do. And what I've learned from talking to so many maintainers over this with the shows I make too is like people really pour their heart and soul into these technologies. And so I think it's sad when some things are just dismissed. Because be kind to others, but especially be kind to yourself. Don't compare yourself with others. You're on your own journey. The people around you, they're your community. They're not your competition. And I was definitely raised with the fixed mindset. I was definitely raised to see people as competition. And as part of my software journey, I actually first learned it in coding school to try to flip that script and have a growth mindset instead. And it is the best. Highly recommended. Everyone around you is community, not competition. There's room for everybody. Have a loose sense of identity. So it makes me cringe when hear people say, I can't draw, or I'm not creative, or I'm not technical, or say anything absolute about themselves like that. I think you're a manifestation of where you put your time and attention, wherever that is.
Yeah.
It can be anywhere, for better or worse. Also embrace change. It's inevitable. So it was a big, big deal when I decided to dissolve my wedding photography business that I had for 10 years. I kind of glossed over that part, but it was huge. I blew up my life. And I didn't know then that I would end up here. In fact, for a while, I thought, dang, I did that. And I ended up as a Lyft driver, again, shame to Lyft drivers. It's like, seriously, everyone has to get by.
Right.
But but it took really totally letting go of who I used to be to make room for who I was supposed to become.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I tell you something real quick?
Yes, please.
Um, so when Broadcom laid me off, I was unemployed for 11 months last year,
Uh-huh.
which was 5 months longer than I thought I was going to be.
Okay.
I I legitimately just wanted to work so bad that I applied at HEB and Aldi.
Yeah.
And this young woman at Aldi was a regional manager in her late 20s, clearly like very like upwards focused, right? Like
Uh-huh.
she reminds me of another friend I have, just business lady, right?
Yeah.
And she looks at me and she says, "Why do you want to work at Aldi? Like, yeah, I see that you worked for, you've been in technology all your life. Why do you want to be a stalker?" And I'm like, bro. So, I actually got declined for those jobs and that hurt.
Yeah.
I was like,
Oh.
I can't work in the meat market at HEB. Like, what the H? Like,
So, what do you think you learned from that experience? I love that you're sharing it, by the way.
I learned that the thing I've always said about myself is I'm not too proud. I'll work anywhere
Uh-huh.
is a lot harder when you actually do it.
Yeah.
Um, and second, like I totally get it. I cook at home. I do home cooking, right?
Uh-huh.
I'm not a butcher, right?
Uh-huh.
Like the young woman regional manager at Aldi wanted someone who wasn't going to be there for only 3 months,
Yeah.
right? Like I understand I wasn't qualified, but it's still weird going to a place where you are wholly unqualified,
Uh-huh.
right? And it's not like I was like, I want to be a heart doctor today, right? It was like, this is something I can do, but
Uh-huh.
still being told no, right? It was just like
Uh-huh.
that hurts. It hurts. So
I
yes.
I love that you're sharing that. I know someone who got laid off recently, and I talked to him pretty quickly after he got laid off, and he was torn up about it. And then I talked to him about 3 months later. I think he forgot he talked to me before, and
Mhm.
he had a completely different version of his own story. He was like, "Well, my contract was there, I only ever intended to work there for X number of years." And
Right.
so it was mutual, and I was like, "I know the truth. You told me the truth before."
Yeah.
But, like,
Yeah.
I think he lied to himself because he couldn't, look at it straight on because it hurt his sense of self too much.
Being laid off was my best case scenario because I was very burned out. And honestly,
Mm.
it was the best thing that happened to me taking that time. It wasn't
Yeah.
easy. It
Yeah.
sucked.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Yeah.
I agree on both counts.
Yes.
Um,
One of the things that technologists, I haven't been in any other career field, so I don't know if this is, crosses other into other things, but technologists really internalize like I am a technologist. They like their job becomes their identity.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when we get laid off, which unfortunately in 2025 we often do,
Yeah.
we get the wind knocked out of us. We get our knees clipped. It's really um, I've been laid off 3 times now,
Mhm.
and one of them was just completely out of the blue. I now make it a point, like if I hear of a friend or somebody in the community that has been laid off, I reach out to them and I say, hey, you aren't your job.
Yeah.
This too shall pass. There's a lot of things that I needed to hear when it happened to me, so I make sure that I say those things to other people when it happens now.
I love
Yeah.
that you're paying it forward. Yeah.
Mm.
That's
That's good to hear, Chris. I actually, having been unemployed and having that feeling of panic, like, oh shit, what if this lasts forever? But also
Mhm.
knowing that it could change the next day, right, is a weird
Right.
place to be. But even talking to friends that I know that are currently unemployed, it feels hard because I don't have anything to give them. I can't say I'm hiring because I'm not, right? Like
Mhm.
right? It's like I don't really know what to give them, but that's a good thing to give. I should have talked to you about this before, Chris. And I'm so glad we accidentally, serendipitously did it here.
Well, see, I mean, that's so my degree is actually in psychology.
Ah,
Ah,
Going back to, folks that didn't have like the traditional training or the
yeah.
CS or degree or whatnot. conflict resolution and being a therapist for a couple of years helps in some, well, actually it helps more now that I'm like in my like architectural consulting phase, because 9 times out of 10, the problem isn't technology. The problem is people not getting along and then fighting
Yeah.
about technology. So
Yeah.
it all comes around. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. People sometimes think that like their work lives outside of the human condition, right? Like I remember being at VMware and saying, you wouldn't do this to your family member, you know, you wouldn't do this in a marriage, or maybe you would, but then, like, why are you surprised when something bad happens after you made this decision, right? Like,
Right.
because they're just people, right? Like there's going to be a thing there. So yes, that is very, yeah, it's weird. It's weird how people forget, like, oh, I can make this decision in a vacuum. Anyways,
we're getting a lot of comments on exactly this topic. Struggling, work-life balance is tough if you internalize a work ethic and then make it part of your personality. I mean, game over Dave is absolutely right.
I'm guilty.
We are humans outside of whatever gig we're doing. And the 9 to 5 gig is one thing, but don't make it be part of your personality. Go out and pick up photography as a random hobby that I might have just
I do like to think of myself as like a learner or a creator, or like kind of broad, like the ways I do give my identity to something, I try to make it broad enough that it can be pointed at anything. Like I'm a learner, and I'm learning tech right now, but I could point that light toward learning languages or learning, I don't know, how to be a potter. Yeah.
When I have friends that say negative things about themselves, I usually say, don't talk about my friend like that.
That's nice.
Oh, I love that.
I'll say that to my wife. Don't you effing talk about my wife like that. Like,
I said earlier, I wanted to make good on my promise to bring up Anki again. So Anki, are you familiar with Anki?
No. Actually, we had another a presenter talking about Anki a couple of episodes ago. So yeah.
Oh, is that Amanda?
This is the second.
Nice.
It was, yeah, Amanda. Amanda used it.
Do you know Amanda Russa?
No.
Whitney?
Famous jazz bassist / sysadmin.
Yes.
Sounds like someone I want to know.
She works for Datadog. Look her up. She kicks ass. She's amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, she's super awesome.
Cool. Well, I won't bore you too much about Anki. If you've already covered it recently. My brother taught himself Japanese. He's a fluent Japanese speaker, self-taught, and he used Anki to do it. And he did it. He shared this book with me called Fluent Forever. And it's more, it has to do with how to learn any language, but it also has to do with how to learn a lot of information in a short amount of time. And that's where I first heard about this tool called Anki. And it's spaced repetition learning. I feel like I could go on about it, but we're over time and I don't want to go down another rabbit hole.
So it looks like there's an app for Fluent Forever as well.
Yeah. And the app will use the spaced repetition too.
Okay, so there's a book and an app for Fluent Forever.
Yeah. And then I basically read the book Fluent Forever and took the techniques and applied it to learning cloud knowledge as opposed to learning a language. So even earlier when I said learning tech jargon is like learning another language, I literally approached learning tech jargon as though I'm learning a foreign language.
Amazing.
That's fair.
And I'll provide all of the links in the show notes for anybody watching this in the future. I'll have the Fluent Forever link, the Anki link, all of the playlists, and Whitney's now a friend of the show too. So subscribe to her as well.
Quick shout out to mentors and collaborators. That's part of the trick. And come say hi to me if you see me at a conference. I always have stickers. I'm nice, as the slide clearly says, so therefore it must be true.
Yes. It's on the internet. It has to be true.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been really fun.
Whitney, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Yes.
I love the content that you create. We have a lot of folks that come that use the vBrownBag content to do transitions into technology or learn new technologies if they've been in the field for a while. So like I said, thank you so much.
A recommendation for someone transitioning into tech. I read a book called Range. Do you know it? It's called, the subtitle is Why Generalists Triumph in a Specialized World. But when I felt so much imposter syndrome for being around people who have decades worth of experience, like how am I ever going to catch up? That book made me feel like I belong. That book made a big difference.
Awesome. Okay, I'll put that link in the show notes as well. That's a fantastic recommendation. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Viewers, thank you so much for coming, and we will see you again next week. Bye.
Bye.
Adios.